If I freeze a bouncy ball in liquid nitrogen and then bounce it, whoa, that bounced high. Surprisingly, it still bounces pretty well. But after about a minute, a drastic change happens. It suddenly becomes an unbouncy ball. Almost no bounce occurs. Look how crazy this is. Has no bounce. That is until it warms up more, and then it bounces like normal again. Today we're going to be exploring the weird physics of bounciness and what really makes something bounce, and why simply being elastic isn't enough. I recently saw a video from Nate from the internet where he took a bouncy ball and put it in liquid nitrogen. When it was frozen, it still bounced pretty well, but then something surprising happened. It warmed up a bit and became completely dead to any bounce. I immediately knew there was some cool physics happening here and had to explore why. So let's go ahead and try this ourselves. First, I have a normal bouncy ball here, like the kind you get out of a vending machine. Now I've made a device where I can drop it from the same height to see how high it bounces each time. Okay, before freezing it, let's drop it, and we get this height. Now let's put it in the liquid nitrogen and freeze it all the way through. Okay, it stopped boiling vigorously, so that means it's at the temperature of the liquid nitrogen now. Now let's drop it. Whoa, it sounds like a marble bouncing. So it's rock hard now, but it's still bouncing just as high almost. But now let's wait and see what happens if it warms up a bit. Okay, it's been about a minute now. Let's see how high it bounces. Whoa! Look how crazy this is. Look at this. So a lot lower than before, almost no bounce at all. If we look at the footage, you'll see that the bounce height dropped by a factor of 10 compared to when it was completely frozen or when it was completely unfrozen. So why is this happening? Well, in Nate's video, a lot of people theorized that the outer shell was warming up, and so it was a little softer with a hard frozen inner shell. But okay, it has a hard core in it, and that makes it not bounce. But wait a minute, why would that matter? We saw that when it was all solid, it bounced, and then we saw if it was all soft, then it bounced. But when some of it was solid and some of it wasn't, it didn't bounce. So what is it about having different layers of hardness that make it not bounce? Well, to understand this, we have to first understand why things bounce in the first place and what it means to be bouncy versus just elastic. But before we continue, you know those meetings where everyone talks, no one takes notes, and by the end, no one remembers anything that even happened in the meeting? Well, this little card-sized gadget fixes that and does a whole lot more. This is the PLAUD Note from PLAUD AI, the sponsor of today's video, the world's most advanced AI-powered note-taking device. With one press, it starts recording your meeting, call, or lecture. The one-tap recording makes it incredibly convenient because there's no need to unlock your phone or dig through menus or download extra apps. And it's nice because the recordings are securely stored with AWS and they're fully SOC 2 and HIPAA compliant. So it has two modes, ambient for in-person conversations and resonance-based call recording that works with literally any phone or app, including Zoom, WhatsApp, FaceTime, or whatever you want to use. This works by sticking it on your phone and it feels the vibrations in the phone and it knows what you're saying and the people on the phone are saying. Once you're done, PLAUD AI transcribes everything, and it also identifies who said what and gives you perfectly organized notes, and also to-do lists or even a mind map. And if you ever need to find something later, just ask it a question and it'll find it. It's as thin as a credit card, lasts 30 hours, and stores 480 hours of audio and comes with military-grade security. I love to use it when I'm brainstorming ideas with my wife or other creators, because I can always just look back on the notes and look for any good ideas that were overlooked. This isn't just a voice recorder, it's like having your own personal assistant that remembers everything. So if you want to try out the PLAUD Note today, you can use the code TAL10 at checkout to get 10% off both the PLAUD Note and Note Pin. And thanks for PLAUD AI for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to our experiment. If you take almost any material and stretch or compress it just a little bit, it snaps back to its original shape. That means it's behaving elastically. In other words, all the energy you put in to deform it gets stored and then returned, like a spring. That's what it means to be elastic. It doesn't stay deformed and it doesn't lose energy as heat or damage. But if you stretch a material too much, then it will start to deform, and at that point it isn't elastic anymore. So with most materials, as long as you don't deform them too much, they're elastic. And we assume things that are elastic should bounce really well. But this is a material called polynorbornene. It's very elastic and stretchy, and it also doesn't permanently deform. And this is neoprene, which is also elastic and doesn't deform. So let's drop both of these balls at the same time. Look at that. 3, 2, 1. You can see that the polynorbornene doesn't bounce hardly at all, but the neoprene does. So both of these are elastic and stretchy and don't deform, but only one of them bounces. So clearly there's something more going on than just whether something is elastic or not. In this case, the reason the polynorbornene doesn't bounce is that its recovery time is longer than the time the ball is in contact with the ground, so it can't push off the ground in time. It's elastic, but not fast enough, so it's not bouncy. Normal bouncy balls are really good at that, whether they're cold or warm. The cold one just deforms less, but still stores the same amount of energy so it can still bounce. But that all breaks down when part of the ball is cold and part of it is warm. When the ball hits the ground, a compression wave moves through the ball, and it's basically like a sound wave. And when sound waves hit a material with higher mechanical impedance, which depends on both the stiffness and the density, the wave speed changes, and part of the wave gets reflected instead of being transmitted through. So for the cold ball that has warmed up a little bit, the shell of it is slightly warmer, so its impedance is lower, whereas the hard inner shell is more glass-like, and it has a very high impedance. So if I have a compression wave moving through the material and it encounters a layer with higher impedance, that wave gets reflected. And at that reflection point, one part of the ball wants to rebound while the other is still compressing. The mismatch in motion creates internal vibrations instead of a clean upward bounce. So having layers with different impedances is a bad idea when you want something to bounce, even if both layers are elastic. So that's why our warm ball could bounce, because it had the same impedance throughout the whole thing, so no wave reflection. And our cold ball could bounce because it had the same impedance throughout the whole thing as well. But as soon as some of it warmed up, it had this outer shell with lower impedance and the inner shell with higher impedance. So even though both of those layers were elastic and bouncy by themselves, when you combine them together, it makes the ball not bounce. So this whole experiment taught me that bouncing isn't just about how stretchy or how elastic something is, but it has a lot to do with the impedance and the frequency of vibrations of the material. And all of those have to combine together and work just right to get it to be very bouncy. And thanks for watching another episode of the Action Lab. I hope you learned something. If you did and you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, remember to hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.